Part 59. My Ship Girl, My World. Author, Huangming Muji. Chapter 583. Commander, how are you doing? Aurora asked Qin Ji beside her. Haha, it's very good. Qin Ji smiled and said, you have only been here a few days and you have made this place look like this. You really put in a lot of effort. Hehe, the environment here is quite good, plus I have been here a few days ago, so it's not bad, Aurora said with a smile. The pride in her eyes could not be concealed. Qin Ji smiled and walked towards the edge of the garden. When looking from a distance, he could only see a sea of flowers, but when he got closer, he could appreciate the beauty of the roses. When I came here, I suddenly felt a lot more relaxed. Thank you, Shungqing. Qin Ji looked at the sea of flowers in front of him, then turned to Aurora and said. It would be best if the commander could feel relaxed, Aurora said, walking to the edge of the garden. He stretched out his white fingers, placed them on a rose branch and gently folded it, then turned around and placed the rose in front of Qin Ji's eyes. Commander, come here. It's so beautiful, what's wrong? Brother Qin first admired the flower in Aurora's hand, and then walked to Aurora. Aurora smiled and put the rose in her hand on Qin Ji's chest. Hehe, as expected, Commander and this kind of rose go well together. Qin Ji looked at Aurora, who was smiling coquettishly, then looked down at the roses on her chest, and said with a smile, this does look a bit like a playboy. Hehe, but that's not the case, Commander, Aurora said. If you can, would you also pick one to wear for me? Qin Ji agreed immediately. Of course, Shungqing is very beautiful. If you bring such beautiful roses, it will look even more beautiful. But I'm not very good at choosing, so don't blame me if you can't choose one you're satisfied with. Aurora quickly shook her head. As long as the commander chooses it, I like it. Qin Ji smiled and said, okay. With Aurora's words, Brother Qin put down his psychological burden, walked to the edge of the garden, and while looking around, he selected a very beautiful rose and picked it off. Then, with Aurora's somewhat rosy complexion, she put it on her chest. Well, it is indeed beautiful, Qin Ji smiled. Hehe, I think it's beautiful too. The commander has really good taste, Aurora said happily. As long as you like it, Qin Ji said, then pointed to a patch of white flowers not far away and said, I think the roses there seem to be different from the varieties here. How about we go there and take a look, and then tell me more about roses? Okay, Commander. The two stayed in the rose garden for a long time, and it felt more like a date than a date. The time came to the afternoon unknowingly, and Qin Ji had to leave at this time. On the way back, Qin Ji asked Aurora, what were you doing some time ago? I'm in the scientific research department, Aurora said with a smile. Did you also go to the scientific research department? I thought there were mostly White Eagle ship girls there, Qin Ji said. No, the scientific research department does not only have ship girls from White Eagle. There are ship girls from several other camps, and there are quite a lot of them, Aurora said. In our royal family, except for me, London, Kweja, they were all there, and Miss Glorious went there occasionally. Of course, there are also people in Donghuang, but there are only 2 people in Jinhai and Anshan. Qin Ji smiled and said, I think so. A person with a eccentric temperament like Zhao He is not suitable for scientific research at all. Besides, Hai Tian is more suitable for studying poetry, but she doesn't like scientific research too much. Indeed, Miss Haitian is like that kind of ladylike eldest lady, a bit like Miss Hood. So scientific research is not very attractive to them, Aurora said with a smile. So what are you studying recently? Qin Ji asked with a smile. Although the scientific research department will have report statistics, it will not be as detailed as what projects each person is working on. It will be an overall report on some projects. We are studying advanced fire control radar with Kweja and the others. The commander should have seen it in the statistical report, right? Aurora asked. I have seen it, but it is a very comprehensive statistic. For example, radar is detection radar, fire control radar, air radar, etc. There is no specific corresponding one. Qin Ji explained. I know, after all, I compiled those, Aurora said with a smile, but having said that, if the mass-produced model is placed on Saipan for research, if something unexpected happens, wouldn't it be a bit difficult to rescue it? There is no way, and Bismarck has the idea of establishing a test site. We can't do research on the main island. In that case, we won't be able to sleep well at night, Qin Ji said with a smile. These things are known to everyone in the fleet, so there is no problem in speaking out like this without any scruples. But Commander, will you give full control of the experimental site to Iron Blood? I always feel that there will be some danger, Aurora said. Qin Ji shook his head. It is very normal to have some dangers. The unknown exists in the experiment, allowing a certain degree of danger to occur. And for Iron Blood, they are the ultimate suitors, whether it is Bismarck or Frederick the Great. Even if there is a certain danger, they will prevent it in advance. Compared to other camps, it may be most correct to leave the series of experiments to them. I know that there has always been a certain gap between you Royals and Iron Bloods, but at this point, you are all serving the future of this fleet, so I hope you can understand. I understand, Commander. Although she was warned by Qin Ji, Aurora did not show any signs of anger or loss. After all, Qin Ji told her all the stakes, which was a sign of full trust. Performance. Don't think too much, and didn't I also take pictures of Soviet Rosia over there? Qin Ji smiled. As long as the two camps work together, I believe something unexpected will appear. Yes, Aurora nodded. By the way, where is Commander going this afternoon? Well, go to Tiancheng. I guess Akagi and Kaga should be there too, Qin Ji said helplessly. Commander, you should be more careful. After all, those two people, haha, they did something shocking before, Aurora said with a smile. Qin Ji rolled his eyes. So always avoiding it won't solve the problem, so it's better to face it calmly. Anyway, with Tiancheng there, they won't do anything too extreme. My Ship Girl, My World. Author, Huangming Mu. Chapter 584. After saying goodbye to Aurora, Qin Ji walked to a place with a very heavy cherry blossom architectural style. Because this base was built by Qin Ji, and the goal was for his own fleet, there were some considerations in terms of accommodation. In addition to the collective dormitories, he also built several buildings with unique camp characteristics. For example, there are buildings like Chongying, Royal European-style buildings, and Roman buildings from the Sardinian Empire, etc. Although there are relatively few ship girls living here, ship girls still like to come here to drink tea and rest when they have nothing to do. Tiancheng told Qin Ji last night that she would be here this afternoon and invited Qin Ji to come over to drink tea and chat. He reached out and knocked on the door, and a voice answered immediately, Your Majesty. Yes, as soon as Qin Ji opened his mouth, the door opened. What appeared in front of Qin Ji was Luin, who had short hair and looked very unruly. Luin, good afternoon, Qin Ji said to Luin. Good afternoon, Commander, Luin said to Qin Ji, and then stepped aside, leaving a way in. Qin Ji smiled, walked in from where Luin had stepped aside, and saw Tiancheng kneeling at the edge of the table. But what surprised him was that Akagi and Kaga were not here. The Lord looked surprised. Did he see that Akagi and Kaga were not here? Magi immediately understood Qin Ji's thoughts and couldn't help but smile. Qin Ji raised his hand in embarrassment. No, it doesn't matter even if they are here. Magi smiled. I know that Akagi and Kaga have caused a lot of trouble to the Lord before, and I have been educating them to correct them in the recent period. Those two children are relatively stubborn, and they have always been in high positions while growing up, so they have developed that kind of character. I hope the Lord will not take offense to them. Qin Ji sat down and looked at Tiancheng and said, I know, but sometimes I don't know how to control the degree of getting along with them. But there will still be a long time to come, and I believe we will definitely have a good relationship. It's great that your lord can think so, Tiancheng said with a smile. Have tea, Commander. While the two were talking, Luan poured a cup of tea from the side and placed it in front of Qin Ji. Thank you, Qin Ji said to Luan with a smile, and then looked at Magi, but having said that, when I usually see Akagakaga, I am always with you. Why am I suddenly not here with you today? The two of them went to Saipan together, Magi replied. The two of them were very interested in the meeting that the Lord held with us in Saipan before, and they also wanted to come out with something different from before. Path, so now I can be considered very actively involved in things within the fleet. Qin Ji nodded suddenly. When they go to Saipan this time, they are not interested in mass-produced warships, right? I guess what can arouse their interest is the experimental field established by Iron Blood, right? My lord is right, Tiancheng nodded. Qin Ji couldn't help but laugh. Tai Shui, Beilian, Chongying, I hope this experimental site will not be too dangerous. Magi shook his head slightly. That's not the case. Even if they have some dangerous ideas, they will still control the entire experimental field within a certain range. After all, this experimental field is for their own fleet, not for enemy. Qin Ji nodded and turned his head to look at Luan. Then why don't you go, Luan? Luan shook his head. I'm not interested in that kind of thing. My biggest interest is to become stronger. Originally, I thought it would be enough to just follow the determined path, but after I came to the fleet and looked at Tiancheng and you, I felt it seems that this is not enough, so I am still exploring. Magi smiled and said, the same goes for Luan. I've told her many times that if you want to become stronger, you don't necessarily have to look at strength. What's more important is an open-minded attitude and a firmer belief. But she always feels that her own strength comes first. Without strength, everything is false. The Lord can help give her some guidance. Qin Ji smiled and said, should I point at Luan? I'm afraid it will only become more confusing as I point at him, right? No, Magi said with a smile, my lord is the one who makes Magi City heartwarming, so it doesn't matter if I am any more confident. What's more, in Luan's heart, my lord is also a very strong person. Am I a strong person? Qin Ji looked at Luan in surprise. Yes, we have experienced so many battles together. I have seen the commander's performance on the battlefield. And even in the battles where I am not with you, I also know what other companions say about you. It's clear, so the commander is a strong man, a very powerful person when facing a battle, Luan said to Qin Ji. Qin Ji felt a little embarrassed at the moment. Thank you very much, but if you ask me to give you some advice, I'm afraid I won't be able to tell you 1, 2, 3, or 4. But I think that for a ship girl, a person's strength is not absolute. Because even if you are strong, you may not be able to accomplish some things, nor may everything go smoothly. What's more important is the bond with your peers and the power of unity. Just like taking an ordinary battle, Akaga should be considered a very powerful aircraft carrier. Her awakening intensity is stronger than everyone else in our fleet. But if we also encounter an enemy's main aircraft carrier, I believe that her processing speed alone will never be faster than that of 3 or even 4 aircraft carrier girls with full training. Therefore, any powerful person has certain circumstances. Even an unknown person has his share of advantages. What the Lord said is very good. I believe that Luan will be inspired by such words, Tiancheng said with a smile. Commander, you want me to make friends with the weak? Luan looked at Qin Ji hesitantly. Qin Ji shook his head. They are not weak. Even the most ordinary destroyer, although it is not as good as you in terms of firepower, it is definitely stronger than you in anti-submarine. So I think there are specialties in the art industry, and no one among the ship girls is weak, only those who are adapted to their field. Lewin thought for a moment, raised his head and said to Qin Ji, I will try to do it, if this can really make me stronger. Qin Ji smiled and said, perhaps you will like the feeling of fighting together with your companions in the future. I hope so, Lewin said doubtfully. Haha, I just said that the Lord will definitely answer Lewin's question, ahem. What's wrong? Qin Ji saw Tiancheng coughing and quickly approached her and said. The Lord is worried. This is just an old problem. Magi shook his head. But you haven't coughed in this period of time. How about we go to the kitchen goddess together, Qin Ji said. It doesn't matter, I probably caught a little cold, just rest for a while and you'll be fine, Magi said. Don't hold on. Yes, Lord. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My Ship Girl, My World. Author, Huangming Muji. Chapter 585. It was already after dinner when we left Tiancheng. As soon as he went out, he saw Belfast standing pretty outside the Chongying building, waiting for him. Why are you here? Qin Ji looked at Belfast and approached with a smile. I didn't see the owner when I was having dinner, so I came here specially to wait for the owner to dine with me, Belfast said. Qin Ji smiled, and while walking forward with Belfast, he said, I ate some snacks at Tiancheng before, but I wasn't too hungry yet. I forgot to eat at this time, and when I calmed down, I realized it's almost dark. Haha, the master has a very busy day, Belfast said. Qin Ji smiled and shrugged, if accompanying beautiful girls like you can be considered tiring, then there is no comfortable job in the world. Haha, master is getting better and better at talking nice things now, Belfast said with a smile. Ha, actually I also found that I used to have nothing to do but look for trouble, but now that I'm more calm, everything goes very smoothly. You are happy, and so am I, Qin Ji said with a smile. So has the master decided who will own the second oath ring? Belfast asked. Qin Ji was stunned for a moment, and said with some embarrassment, there are too many options, and I can't choose at the moment. So I'm going to save some more red tips, and I'll make a decision when I can buy the next ring of oath. However, I already have the next choice in mind. Who is it? Even Belfast asked curiously. Qin Ji stopped, turned to Belfast and said, You. Me. Belfast was stunned for a moment and couldn't help but laugh. I understand the master's wishes, but I suggest that it would be better to give this oath ring to another young lady. Belfast is just a first-class maid. As long as I look at you every day, it is my greatest happiness. Qin Ji shook his head, how can you say that? In total, although you are not the first two ship girls I summoned, you were the third one I summoned, and you have been with me for such a long time. Yes, always taking care of me. If I don't care about people like this, then who am I as a commander? But if the master is like this, it will make me want to do more for the master, and it will also make me think too much, Belfast said. Qin Ji smiled and said, although in the royal family, your identity is the head maid. But our fleet is not the royal family. It is your interest to be a maid, but it is also my freedom to like you. And after making the vow, I won't worry about you being a maid, so let's just settle it. Then thank you, Master. Belfast did not refuse, but said very happily. There was a sense of satisfaction on his face that his wish had been fulfilled, which did not escape Qin Ji's eyes. Seeing the satisfied Belfast, Qin Ji couldn't help but think of the time when Dido was his secretaryship. As a member of the maid team, Dido actually had quite a few criticisms of Belfast. For Dido, being able to take care of Qin Ji and stand by his side as a maid is already her proudest thing. But when she saw that Belfast's desires were more than that, and often did things that exceeded the limits of a maid, she would feel jealous from the bottom of her heart. Of course, Shinji didn't know Belfast's thoughts through Dido. The two of them had actually known each other's thoughts from a long time ago, but Shinji hadn't decided yet at that time. Later, because Guanghui Shinji opened his heart and chose to accept these ship girls, as the person who opened Shinji's heart, Guanghui was naturally the first ship girl Shinji chose to swear an oath to. In fact, he thought about swearing to a centaur or Nashiro for the second time. After all, they are his initial ship girls. Even if they swear to each other, no one in the port area will say anything. But after much thought, Shinji still wanted to give this ring to Belfast, who had always taken care of him. The two of them chatted all the way to the fleet canteen. While helping Shinji get food in Belfast, a figure sat in front of Shinji. "New Jersey, did you just come over for dinner?" Shinji asked with a smile. "No, I'm here specifically to wait for the commander," New Jersey said to Shinji. "Oh? Are you waiting for me specially?" "So what's the matter?" Shinji asked. "Commander, in a while it will be the siren tide. I always feel that the sirens are planning something. When I went to the sea to clear the channel in the past few days, I found that the siren fleet in the sea is gradually increasing," New Jersey said. "Increase?" Shinji was a little surprised. "Why do I see in the report submitted that the number of siren fleets you encounter every day is within a constant value range, and there is no sign of increase?" "I'm not talking about the increase in the number of siren fleets, but the size of the siren fleets," New Jersey explained. "Most of the time before, a large siren fleet consisted of several battleships and several aircraft carriers with some heavyweights, composed of cruisers, light cruisers, and destroyers. But during this time, I found that the number of battleships and aircraft carriers had increased slightly. Perhaps it was because we were fighting faster, so others did not notice this. But this is a fact, and I only discovered this problem by accident. I think the commander should also know that the addition of a main battleship is not as simple as just one more ship for the fleet's capabilities." Shinji touched his chin and nodded. "This situation should not have much impact on our fleet, but it will have an impact on other commanders. Could it be that the siren is preparing to boil the frog in warm water, gradually increasing the number of the siren fleet, and then unknowingly causing greater casualties to the commander and the ship's wife? I don't know, this is just something I discovered by accident, so I'm here to tell the commander. Maybe you and a few others can guess the siren's subsequent plans from these data," New Jersey said with a smile. Shinji nodded. "I understand the situation, and I will contact several other leaders to ask them to pay more attention to this matter when performing tasks. If it can be confirmed that the siren fleet is indeed gradually increasing its main force, then we should promptly notify Donghuang and other major camps so that they can take appropriate precautions. These are troubled times and we must be vigilant. If you find something like this again in New Jersey in the future, please report it to me immediately. Any abnormal situation may save our fleet. Don't worry, Commander, I'm from New Jersey. I will definitely find clues about the sirens. My Ship Girl, My World." Author, Huangming Muji. Chapter 586. The next day, as soon as he arrived at the office, Shinji asked Aurora to find the leaders of the current camps. Although Aurora was a little confused, she immediately followed Shinji's order and immediately went to find the leaders of several other camps. Among those who came, except Enterprise, Veneto, and Nagato who were camp leaders, the others were all leaders of each camp. After all, the iron-blooded Bismarck, Frederick the Great, Soviet Union and others from the Northern Alliance are all in Saipan not far away, and it will take some time to come back. For example, Richelieu is still in the sea, and the ship girls leading the Free Iris and Vichy Holy See are collecting battle data in Gascony and cannot come back in time. This time the meeting was not held in the conference room, but in Shinji's office. Because the school said very little, the most it did was to remind the ship girl and collect some other unusual things. "Commander, why are you so anxious to ask Aurora to call us over? Enterprise asked Shinji while sitting on the sofa in the office. Looking at the ship girls coming over, Shinji smiled and said, there is something I need to tell you, and then you will inform the ship girls in your camp. Last night, New Jersey told me something. She said that the size of the Siren fleet is gradually increasing recently, but there are relatively few of them. Maybe you didn't pay attention during the battle. So I hope that when you patrol in the future, or encounter the Siren fleet during an attack, pay attention to its size, route, distance, and time between each other. Pay attention to this. Does the commander suspect that Siren will make any big moves in the near future? Veneto asked. Shinji shook his head, not recently, but it has always been like this. Have you noticed? I feel like the Siren has started to make some moves since the last time we met the builder. Combined with the purge incident that occurred near the Free Iris camp and the return of the major envoys to their own camp, I believe this is not a coincidence. Perhaps all the major camps have encountered it, similar to the situation we encountered before. So I can be sure that Siren has gradually changed from its previous strategic approach. Although it is just a small fight in some areas now, we cannot rule out that these are smoke bombs to confuse us and use them to obscure their true intentions. Just like the increase in the size of the Siren fleet discovered in New Jersey this time, as long as it is confirmed that this is the case, then it is very likely that they chose to boil the frog in warm water. As the size of the Siren fleet continued to expand, more commanders and ship girls were unknowingly killed and wounded. Although we don't understand the purpose of Sirens doing this, it must be very bad information for us. And the Siren tide is coming soon. If the main battleships of each fleet are increased in the current tide, the number of Siren tide will be greatly enhanced. As a result, the defense lines of some areas that were expected to resist the Siren tide collapsed instantly, causing greater casualties to the cities and residents along the coast. In this way, the trust between the ship girl and human beings will be questioned, and things will become a lot more troublesome later on. Enterprise kept nodding after listening to Shinji's words. So, Commander, what do you want us to do? Pay attention to the anomalies among the Siren fleet. If there are large-scale anomalies, then we should promptly notify the Donghuang, Chongying and White Eagle camps that are relatively close. Although we now regard ourselves as lone wolves, we should not deliberately isolate ourselves, but should unite all forces that can be united. Shinji said to everyone. Understood, Commander, several people said in unison. At this time, Shinji turned his attention to Prince Eugen. Again, how is the situation on Saipan going? If there is a Siren tide, can we have mass-produced warships as cannon fodder backing? According to the prediction, it is possible. After all, mass-produced warships are not as difficult to manufacture as the man-made warships that the commander previously understood. It only needs to be constructed with Rubik's Cube energy and the remains of the Siren to build it. Peter Strasser and the others have now arranged the facilities at the proving ground, and progress on both sides is going very smoothly. Prince Eugen said. Shinji nodded and turned to look at Enterprise. Enterprise, Veneto, and you two have recently organized more awakened ship girls or fully trained ship girls to go to the 6th level sea area to start hunting. I think the Monju project in our port area should also start to progress. This will be of great help to our scientific research and testing sites. In addition, after the meeting is over, I will summon a group of ship girls to come out and fill the vacancies in our usual scientific research and other positions, which can also be regarded as reserving our reserve force. Yes, Commander. Enterprise and Veneto nodded. At this time, Nagato hesitated a little, and finally couldn't help but said to Shinji, I can also attack. Shinji turned to look at Nagato, who was blushing but had firm eyes, thought for a moment and said, no problem, Nagato, you will organize your Chongsakura Awakening ship girls, with you as the flagship, towards the 6th level sea area hunting among them. Yes, Nagato replied happily. She was already prepared to be rejected by Qin Ji, but Qin Ji's answer was beyond her expectation. Qin Ji smiled and said, "Are you so happy to go out? I see that you always stay there quietly, so I thought you didn't like to go out." Nagato quickly shook his head, "Although I don't like war, if the war can bring peace to the fleet and help everyone, I am bound to do so." "Haha," Commander Enterprise said to Qin Ji, "every ship girl longs for peace, even if they are worthless after peace, they will not hesitate. But this does not mean that they are afraid of war or do not like war, but that for them, war is the only way to peace." Qin Ji smiled and said, "Yes, after all, you are born for war, how can you be afraid? So this meeting ends here. As I said to you before, you must pay attention when you attack recently. If large-scale abnormal behavior is discovered, it can be reported directly. It doesn't matter what I'm doing at the time, even if I'm sleeping at night, it can pull me out of bed." Haha, the commander is really strict with himself, but don't worry, if a large-scale abnormality is discovered, the commander will be notified in time, Enterprise said. "Okay, let's break up the meeting." Following Qin Ji's order, several people left Qin Ji's office one after another. My Ship Girl, My World. Author, Huangming Mu. Chapter 587. Why are there only these mental Rubik's Cubes? Qin Ji said with some surprise as he looked at the mental Rubik's Cube that Aurora brought over. Because when they came to Guam, they exchanged all their fleet's points and special redemption vouchers for oil, Rubik's Cubes and other supplies. Logically speaking, there should be a lot of Rubik's Cube left, so this time Qin Ji is planning to do another big construction. "Commander, have you forgotten? Didn't you give instructions before that the Rubik's Cube can be used at the experimental site in Saipan?" Aurora said to Qin Ji. "I have given instructions on this matter, but the consumption of this Rubik's Cube is too terrifying, isn't it? It has only been a few days, and there is only such a small amount of mental Rubik's Cube left in the warehouse where we are fighting," Qin Ji said in surprise. "We are in the experimental stage now, so the number of Rubik's Cubes consumed is not too much. But I think Bismarck and the others felt that it was a bit troublesome to take the Rubik's Cubes bit by bit from the warehouse on the island, so they transferred the Rubik's Cubes in large quantities to the island." "Is that where Ben Island is?" Aurora said. Qin Ji nodded, "It's possible, but this experimental site is really a big hole. I don't know how many Rubik's Cubes can be put into it." Aurora smiled, "There are currently more than 400 known types of ship girls in the world, so if the commander builds another one, he will only need a maximum of 400 mental cubes. After that, the Rubik's Cube is just a resource-like material for us, and is not considered one of the necessary things. So I think we have the capital to do this, because our future combat capabilities will also depend on that experimental site." Qin Ji smiled and said, "That's true. I just suddenly thought that when I worked hard to get commissions for a few Rubik's Cubes, I feel a little distressed to use the Rubik's Cube like this now. Haha, that's all because of the hard work of the previous commander, and we are stronger now, and we are no longer as poor as before." Aurora smiled. Qin Ji let out a haha, then looked at a few mental Rubik's Cubes placed on the table and said, "Then let's just take these Rubik's Cubes, and then summon a few main ship girls to train them well. Then in a few days what awaits us in months is a big battle." "Yes." The two of them left the office together and walked towards the scientific research area of the port area. When Qin Ji planned it, logically speaking, the construction room should be placed next to the warehouse. But Qin Ji planned it in the scientific research area. Although summoning the ship girl is not a particularly technical thing, Qin Ji always feels that it is strange for the new ship girl to see the warehouse as soon as she comes out. And because it is placed in the scientific research area, the basic daily maintenance of the construction room is carried out at other facilities along with the scientific research. When he came to the construction room, looking at the very close hygiene and elegant environment, Qin-ji couldn't help but smile. Sure enough, our construction room here is much neater than the previous construction rooms in other places. Aurora smiled and said, hee, isn't it because our construction room is brand new? Qin-ji smiled and shook his head. The construction room is the second batch of buildings, so logically speaking, it has been built for half a year and is not considered new. Having said that, after coming here, have the other commanders used the construction room to build ship girls? Aurora nodded. Yes, some of them built it on the same day, and some didn't see it until the next day. Anyway, they said they were grabbing the jackpot. Qin-ji smiled and said, so what's the result? Have you built a rare ship girl? Aurora smiled. Commander Chen Beijun built an Essex, Commander Wang Yukan built a Victory, and Commander Guan Shui built a Dragon and Phoenix. Several other commanders also built ships. Mom, they are all elite or rare. Dragon and Phoenix, Qin-ji smiled and nodded. After all, it is a very powerful light aircraft carrier. Guan Shui is really lucky. Hee, Commander, I don't know how lucky I am compared to them, Aurora said with a smile. Qin-ji shrugged. The key is that I don't have dragons and phoenixes. By the way, there is Essex. Perhaps after the commander calls, Dragon Phoenix or Essex will appear. After all, everyone knows the commander's luck, Aurora said. Then give it a try. Anyway, there are only 10 Rubik's Cubes and 5 chances, Qin-ji said, and then looked at the builder in front of him, but having said that, the builder made by Akashi is different from the one made by Shigesakura. The equipment is almost the same. The distinction between light, heavy and special types has been completely eliminated, and the three have been merged into one. But suddenly I felt that it would be a bit of a loss if I summoned a light ship girl. After all, I only needed a mental cube and 600 units of supplies before. Although the resources required have been greatly improved, the probability of ship girls appearing has also been greatly improved, otherwise many commanders would not have summoned ship girls before. You must know that in the past, checking the ship girl in those 3 builders made them very troubled, and sometimes they still couldn't build it. Aurora said. That's the truth, Qin-ji nodded, picked up 2 mental cubes that Aurora had placed at his feet, and took another 1,500 units of supplies and put them into the builder in front of him. Let's try our luck and see who will appear this time. Qin-ji said and pressed the start button of the builder. As the builder began to rumble, the 2 men's eyes were fixed on the monitor screen of the builder. After waiting for a while, the builder finally became quiet, and a number popped up on the screen of the builder. 4 hours and 45 minutes. Tisk, there seems to be only one person at this time, right? Qin-ji looked at the time on the builder's display screen and turned to Aurora and said. Yes, according to the information we collected, this time will only appear in the special builder, and the ship girl that appears is Chongying's armored aircraft carrier Taifeng, Aurora said to Qin-ji. Qin-ji nodded. I always feel that Zhongying's aircraft carrier does not have a simple character. Akagakaga is like this, Saryufi Long is like that, Xiaokeku is like that, but Ziwikaku looks more normal. Hee, the aircraft carrier roles in all camps are not simple. After all, they are the main ship girls, Aurora smiled. Qin-ji shook his head with a smile. Don't you think Li Chenming's Saratoga is very simple? He often plays with destroyers and submarines, and makes some pranks for Li Chenming from time to time. What's the point of being a main ship girl? What does it look like? A real aircraft carrier must be like its sister Lexington and Glory, truly tolerant of all things, so that it can have the temperament of a mothership. Ha, Commander, are you really not afraid of Saratoga in our fleet in the future? Aurora smiled. Well, let's wait until we summon her, Qin-ji shrugged. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My ship girl, my world. Author, Huangming Muji. Chapter 588. While Qin Ji and Aurora were talking, they had already put the rapid construction tool into the groove of the builder, and then pressed the start button. The builder was seen shaking rapidly, and then the time on the builder's display screen quickly cleared to 0, and the builder's hatch opened. A golden light emerged from the hatch along with thick smoke. Qin Ji had seen the scene many times, so he didn't look surprised. What made him curious was the Daifeng behind him. The last time he went to Chongying, he didn't see Daifeng. According to the files previously collected from Chongqing, Daifeng should have been sent by Akagi and Kaga to leave the main island of Chongqing and go to the northernmost Hokkaido to garrison. So the last time Chong Sakura's awakened ship girls gathered to fight the purifiers, Daifeng didn't show up at all. While Qin Ji was thinking, the smoke in front of him gradually dissipated, and what appeared in front of Qin Ji was a very charming woman at first glance. She has long black hair, tied into two twin tails, and a crest on her head. Wearing a brightly colored kimono, it looks like the wings of a phoenix, and there are a few wisps of phoenix feathers on the cuffs, which looks very distinctive. Immediately afterwards, Daifeng in front of him opened his burgundy eyes and suddenly saw Qin Ji in front of him. For a moment, Daifeng's expression began to tremble, and he became speechless. The burning in the body, the agitation in the heart. I have finally waited for you, Commander, Daifeng, please give me some advice. Qin Ji was stunned for a moment by Daifeng's seductive and exciting voice, and then he realized, well, this is not a wedding ceremony, so there is no need to say these words. Don't blame Qin Ji for saying this, because no matter it is his world or this world, Chongying women usually say to their husbands when they get married, the little girl is not talented, please give me some advice and so on. It was obvious that Daifeng and Qin Ji had just met, so it was indeed inappropriate to use the sentence, so Qin Ji brought it up. It doesn't matter, everything about me belongs to the commander. But when faced with Qin Ji's problem, Daifeng didn't care at all. Qin Ji looked at Daifeng with shining eyes in front of him, and couldn't help but immediately put Daifeng and Akagi in the same category, because he had seen this kind of look on Akagi before. However, he still couldn't forget what he needed to do as a commander, so Qin Ji stepped forward and extended his right hand towards Daifeng. Before he could say anything, Daifeng couldn't wait to hold his hand in Qin Ji's and squeezed Qin Ji's hand tightly. Ahem, hello Daifeng, my name is Qin Ji. From today on, I will be your commander. I welcome you to join my fleet. I hope you can give me guidance in your future work and life. Feeling the strength in Daifeng's hand, Qin Ji couldn't help but cough slightly, and finally said slightly embarrassed. Even though he had made an oath with Guanghui, and even though he could chat and laugh with other ship girls in the port area, he still couldn't let go of ship girls like Akagi. When Qin Ji finished speaking, Daifeng couldn't wait to say, Commander, I am the aircraft carrier Daifeng, but it is the latest aircraft carrier with specially enhanced defensive armor. At this point, a blue light flashed behind Daifeng, and a fan-shaped ship suit appeared beside her. Daifeng said to Qin Ji as if he was showing off a treasure, Commander, looking at the flight deck and the enclosed hangar, isn't it great? Qin Ji looked at Daifeng's ship uniform and couldn't help but think of what happened to Daifeng in his own world's history, so he asked, such a design makes your armor protection more powerful, but it greatly reduces the carrier-based aircrafts. The installed capacity is very small, and the space in the hangar is relatively small, so it is very difficult to popularize fire protection facilities such as damage control. Huh? You mean loading capacity and fire protection? These little things don't matter. Daifeng smiled and waved his hand and said, then he straightened his chest and pulled down the sides of his kimono slightly. Compared with this, what do you think of Daifeng? Are you satisfied with your body? Qin Ji couldn't help but be speechless. This was the first time he had seen Atago seducing him so blatantly. Even the previous Atago was only when the two of them were alone. Ahem, I'm satisfied, Qin Ji said quickly. Well, I have to summon other ship girls, so please wait aside for a moment, or ask Aurora to introduce you to the current situation of our fleet, okay? Since it is the commander's request, Daifeng will definitely comply with it, Daifeng said with a smile, and then walked back in the direction of Aurora step by step. Qin Ji couldn't help but have a headache watching this scene, but he should be more thankful. Because he always felt that Daifeng and Akagi had similar personalities before, but after seeing him speak, Daifeng immediately followed it, which made him feel much better about Daifeng. When Daifeng walked to Aurora and talked to Aurora about the fleet with a smile, Qin Ji turned around and continued to work. After placing the Rubik's Cube and materials in the builder again, Qin Ji pressed the start button. As the builder began to rumble, a time gradually appeared on the builder's display screen. 4 hours and 50 minutes. Qin Ji couldn't help but smile when he looked at this time. There were two levels of ship girls at this time. One is the White Eagle ship girl headed by North Carolina, and the other is the Royal ship girl headed by King George V. He already has North Carolina and Washington, and what appears this time will inevitably be one of the King George V level. Nearly 200 ship ladies have been summoned, but among Qin Ji's fleet, there is no one of the King George V level. Originally, Qin Ji thought he would have to wait for a while, but he didn't expect to see it when he summoned it today. So with a hint of excitement, Qin Ji put the rapid construction tool in his hand into the groove of the builder and pressed the start button. The builder began to vibrate, and the time on the monitor screen cleared in an instant. As the hatch of the builder began to gradually open, a golden light was revealed along with the smoke. Under Qin Ji's unblinking gaze, a figure gradually became clearly visible in the smoke. She has pink hair with long hair hanging behind her back. She is wearing a red navy uniform and a black cape, hanging chicly on the left side. When the smoke completely dissipated, she opened her eyes, looked at Qin Ji in front of her and said with a smile. So that's it? The aura that makes you obsessed and crazy is emanating from your soul. You seductive and criminal commander. Please remember you's name, the Duke of York of the Royal Navy. Qin Ji instantly covered his face with his hands. Could this familiar tone be the same again? My ship girl, my world. Author, Huangming Mu Ji. Chapter 589. The Duke of York is the third ship of the King George V class. The ship's name comes from George VI, the second son of King George V. Originally, the second son, the Duke of York, could not become the king. The reason why he came to the throne was because his elder brother, the Prince of Wales, chose to abdicate in order to marry a widow, and the burden of the throne fell on him. When Qin Ji was chatting with the Prince of Wales, the Dean of the Commander Academy, he heard the Prince of Wales mention similar things. Thinking only for a moment, Qin Ji immediately corrected his posture and stretched out his hand to the Duke of York. Hello, Duke of York, my name is Qin Ji, and I will be your commander from today on. I hope I can do it in the future. Please give me lots of advice at work. Haha, you are really an interesting person. Yu Zhen is becoming more and more interested. The Duke of York smiled. Ahem, Duke of York, since I still have a ship girl that I haven't summoned yet, could you please step aside and ask Aurora to introduce you to the situation in our port area? We'll talk after I finish summoning, Qin Ji said to the Duke of York. Facing the intoxicating soul, I don't mind waiting a little longer. The Duke of York looked at Qin Ji and smiled, then turned and walked in the direction of Aurora. This gave Qin Ji a headache. He had seen several George V-level monarchs, such as the Prince of Wales, and a monarch who was considered a George V-level monarch. Although everyone has their own personality, everyone is full of their own charm and has a sense of freedom and ease. But the feeling Duke of York gave him was always a little strange. When he thought of this, Qin Ji shook his head and temporarily put these thoughts away from his mind. Next, he had to continue to summon the ship girl. After putting the mental cube and materials into the builder again, Qin pressed the button of the builder. As the builder started running, a rumbling sound could be heard. After a while, a time appeared on the builder's screen. 4 hours and 50 minutes. This. Qin looked at the time and was speechless. If you don't come, it's okay. If you come, you will say one after another. After all, the Duke of York just built it at this time, and within this time period, he only had the King George V class left to build. Picking up the quick construction tool, Qin put it into the groove of the builder and pressed the start button. In an instant, the builder rumbled, and the time on the display cleared instantly. During this noise, the hatch of the builder slowly opened, and a golden light came out along with the smoke. When the golden light and smoke dissipated, Qin looked at the very familiar figure in front of him and felt nostalgic. The golden hair, the red and white prince's uniform, and the bright red cloak all revealed her identity. Commander? Well, let me show you the strength of my Prince of Wales. Hearing this familiar voice, Qin couldn't help but smile. Hello, Prince of Wales. Huh? Why does the commander always look at me with a sense of nostalgia? Could it be that you have met other princes of Wales before? The Prince of Wales asked Qin. After all, Qin performance was too abnormal, not like welcoming a new ship's wife, which could not help but make the Prince of Wales doubtful. Qin nodded. Indeed, I have met other princes of Wales before. Maybe you can see her if you have the chance in the future, but now is not the time to talk about this. Qin said this and stretched out his right hand towards the Prince of Wales. My name is Qin. I am the commander of this fleet, and I will also be your commander from today on. I hope I can give you more advice in the future. Well, that's it. The Prince of Wales walked forward gracefully and held Qin hand. I believe that with the foundation of the other me, we will get along very harmoniously. I am the second ship of the King George V class, Prince of Wales. Please give me more advice in the future, Commander. Yet Qin smiled and nodded. When he was about to say something, he found a soft hum coming from not far away. Qin and the Prince of Wales turned their heads and found that the Duke of York was looking at them. Moreover, the way the Duke of York looked at the Prince of Wales was not as happy as his sister for her sister, but rather complicated. York. It seems that you have just been summoned. We are really destined, the Prince of Wales said to the Duke of York. Humph, I hope this fate can be less frequent. Besides, he is Yu's prey, so you'd better not get involved, the Duke of York said with a smile. Huh, the Prince of Wales smiled. The commander has never been anyone's prey, and he has always been immersed in the past. That is a very sad thing. How about looking forward, York? UK is different from you, the Duke of York said unceremoniously. Haha, that's not necessarily the case, the Prince of Wales smiled, then ignored the Duke of York and said to Qin, Commander, our two sisters made you laugh. It seems that we should pause our topic now. After all, it's time to meet again. It seems I have to communicate with York properly. Qin was feeling a little dizzy at this time, and he couldn't help but nod his head when he heard what the Prince of Wales said. Okay, it just so happens that I have to summon other ship girls next, so you guys can talk first, but we are still sisters, so it's best to keep it within limits, Qin said to the Prince of Wales. Don't worry, the Prince of Wales smiled, then turned and walked in the direction of the Duke of York. Qin couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief when he looked at the red figure, and then scratched his forehead. It seemed that the port area would become more and more lively in the future. But now is not the time to think about these things. The summons is still going on, and Qin can't stop yet. Immediately afterwards, he picked up 2 Rubik's cubes and materials from under his feet and put them into the builder. And pressed the start button. As the builder started to run, a time was displayed on the builder's display. 4 hours and 50 minutes. This, Qin was stunned again. Could it be that today is a King George V level performance? 3 in a row, it really makes people have to think about it. But having said that, after summoning the Prince of Wales and the Duke of York, the only known English George V class left are King George V and How. So this time it must be one of the two. Who will it be? With this doubt and expectation, Qin Ge placed the rapid construction tool into the groove of the builder and pressed the start button. As the builder started running, the numbers on the builder's display screen cleared instantly, and the builder's hatch slowly opened. A golden light was revealed along with the smoke, and a figure was looming in the smoke. My Ship Girl, My World. Author, Huangming Mu. Chapter 590. When the smoke dissipated, the figure appeared in front of Qin Ge. The long golden hair, the same red and white uniform and the bright red cloak are exactly the same as the previous attire of the Prince of Wales and the Duke of York. The three of them are just different in some details. If they stand together, it is obvious that they are all the same. Just as Qin Ge was looking at the other person, the figure also opened his wine-red eyes. There was a hint of excitement in his tone. A new battlefield? Haha, let me wait. Hey, Wales and York. That figure. For a moment, he saw the Prince of Wales and the Duke of York who were bickering. He was stunned for a moment, and then he looked back, because the recognition of sisters was obviously not what needed to be done now. There were more important people in front of them. So, are you my commander? King George V, at your service. Looking at the majestic figure in front of him, although Qin Ge had already guessed the identity of the other party, he still felt a little emotional when King George V said it himself. This is what a knight looks like, steady, majestic, and looking forward to fighting. Qin Ge took a step forward with a smile and extended his right hand to King George V. Hello, George V, my name is Qin Ge, and I will be your commander from today on. Welcome to join our fleet. I hope you can give me more advice on life and work in the future. Hello, Commander. King George V stepped forward and held Qin Ge's hand. I am the King George V class named ship. I have served as the local flagship, participated in many battles, and also I fought against Bismarck, but I didn't enjoy the fight that time. It would be great if we could fight again here. As for the rest, what do you want to know about me? Looking at the very easygoing King George V, Qin Ge smiled and said, Haha, Bismarck is indeed in the fleet now, but he is not on the island now, but he is nearby. If you want to compete with her, there will be plenty of time in the future. And about you, the special envoy Hao who came from the royal family has already said almost everything. A special envoy from the royal family, King George V smiled. It seems that there are still many things that I don't know, but I believe that it won't be long before I can integrate into the fleet. The commander is looking forward to my activity. Qin Ge nodded, then turned his head and looked at the Prince of Wales and the Duke of York who were paying attention. Your two younger sisters have also been summoned just now, but it seems that there are some conflicts between them. I hope you can help adjust them. King George V smiled and looked at the two of them, York and Wales. Haha, although it is a pity that they don't hold my arms and call me sister, but it is a good thing to have personality. It is very normal to have an occasional quarrel. This is the persistence of one's own beliefs and the firmness of a knight. However, if something like this bothers the commander, I will warn them, but I don't know whether it will be of any use. Qin Ge was speechless. It seemed that King George V of England was still a big-hearted sister, and the quarrels between sisters could be regarded by her as a manifestation of his personality. However, based on what Hao said before, Qin Ge can understand King George V better. A very magnanimous and forthright knight, he is also the right-hand man of the Royal Elizabeth, or another person in charge of the royal family. After sorting out his thoughts, Qin Ge shook his head at King George V. It doesn't bother me much, I'm just a little worried about the relationship between the two of them. But since you said so, then according to your just deal with it the right way. The commander is a person who is very easy to accept opinions. It seems that the work efficiency in the future will be very high. King George V said, I don't know, can I take the liberty to ask? Who is the current royal leader in the fleet? Is it Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth or the Hood? Qin Ji shook his head, because Hood's current training level is relatively low, he has not intervened in the management of the royal family. The person who can be regarded as the leader of the royal family is the monarch. Monarch? Why have I never heard of this name, but it feels a little bit familiar. King George V frowned and said. Qin Ji smiled and said, the monarch is another version of King George V, maybe in another parallel time and space, she will be King George V. When King George V heard Qin Ji's words, he instantly understood the identity of the monarch. There is such a miraculous thing, Commander, I have more and more expectations for our fleet. But it seems that now is not the time to talk about these things in detail. Commander, there should be some companions who have not yet been summoned, right? Then you summon your companions first, and I'll go say hello to my two sisters first. I'll find out more about the fleet situation from you later. Qin Ji nodded and saw King George V saluting him, and finally walked towards the direction of the Prince of Wales and the Duke of York. After King George V left, Qin Ji continued the construction. Perhaps 4 main ship girls appeared in succession. The 5th ship girl who appeared in front of Qin Ji was a light cruiser, and it was also a familiar class. Royal Navy, Artosa-class light cruiser Penelope, once in the K Fleet, performed the mission of intercepting transport ships with Aurora and several other partners. Although there were hard times, she still persevered. If I could have noticed that child at the last moment. In front of Qin Ji, a ship girl with light purple hair and wearing black royal clothes said to him. This person is Penelope, the 3rd Artosa-class ship, and Aurora's sister. The last time he summoned, Qin Ji summoned Artosia and Galatea of the Artosia class. This time he summoned Penelope, which can be regarded as summoning all 4 Artosia class ships. The summoning is complete. Qin Ji stepped forward and extended his right hand to Penelope. Hello, Penelope, my name is Qin Ji, I am the commander of this fleet, and I will also be your commander from today on. I hope that in the future work I can give you a lot of advice in life and life. Penelope was not too shy, but stepped forward, held Qin Ji's hand and said to him, from today on, I am your subordinate and follower. I hope you can, remember my name. Qin Ji was stunned for a moment, then took a deep look at Penelope and nodded, don't worry, I will remember each of your names. Thank you. Seeing Qin Ji's answer so seriously, Penelope nodded and her expression gradually relaxed. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My Ship Girl, My World. Author, Huangming Muji. Chapter 591. The day's work is finally done. Thank you for your hard work, Shungqing. Qin Ji smiled at Aurora. It's okay, Commander, this is all what I should do. Aurora smiled and organized the documents on the desk and marked them one by one with the imprint of petals. Qin Ji smiled when he saw this scene. I found that since you became my secretary ship, the whole office has been exuding the fragrance of roses, which has never happened before. Then Commander, do you like the smell? Aurora turned her head to look at Qin Ji while putting down the documents. I like it. Who can hate such a refreshing fragrance? And I don't have pollen allergies or anything like that, Qin Ji said with a smile. Hee, that's good. After Aurora put down the documents, she turned around and looked at Qin Ji. Commander, should we go on patrol now, or should we wait until we finish eating the flour cake? Qin Ji thought for a while. Let's go now. Last night, Hood specifically told me that a royal tea party would be held today to welcome King George V and the others. So I have to go earlier, so I'm sorry for today. If you have time tomorrow, How about we go on a date on the beach together? Or to your garden? Aurora smiled and said, "It doesn't matter. Since the commander has something to do, we will go on patrol now. After the patrol, the commander will go to work first. As for tomorrow, as a secretary ship, I naturally have time, or it is my duty to be with you." Shinji nodded. "Well, let's go on patrol together." "Yes." The two left the office together and began patrolling the port area. A total of 10 ship girls were summoned yesterday. In addition to the 3 George V-class ships, there were also Dayfen, Penelope, Destiny, Minsk, Majesty, Furutaka, and Langley. These are all for a reinforcement of the strength of the port area. If the biggest change brought about by the arrival of these ship girls is to strengthen the strength of the port area, then the other thing is to make the royal atmosphere a little lively. The first is the relationship between the Prince of Wales and the Duke of York. The two people showed very personality when they were building the room. The other is the meeting between George V and the monarch. Brother Chin originally thought that the meeting between the two people would be a tit-for-tat confrontation, but he did not expect that the meeting between the two people was unexpectedly harmonious. However, after the meeting, the monarch's expression was obviously a little depressed. Finally, for Hood, the arrival of King George V resolved some of the royal embarrassments. Because no matter what the monarch says, although the camp is royal, she is a scientific research ship that does not exist in history. Now he is reluctantly the leader of the royal family, which is appropriate, but it is a bit of a loss of face. After all, the royal family with so many ships needs to use a scientific research ship to save its own face, which is really uncomfortable. Although the royal family still has very important main ship girls like War Exhaustion and Glory, they are not in the position of leaders. The arrival of George V made Hood feel relieved. After all, George V is technically a member of the royal family, and his status in the royal family is second only to Queen Elizabeth. If Elizabeth is the soul of the royal family, then George V is the executor of the royal family. Whether it is external warfare or internal management, George V has great power. This is also the composition of the current royal camp in the world. In this way, in order to welcome the arrival of King George V, it is necessary to hold a specially organized welcome tea party. As for Shinji, as the commander of the port area, if he appears at this tea party, it will also help other camps understand the royal family's determination. So, after the patrol, Shinji said goodbye to Aurora and went to the royal tea party alone. Just as Chongying has a small courtyard building that belongs to Chongying in the port area, the royal family also has a building that belongs to the royal family in the port area. This building is located on the outskirts of the port area. It is a small British-style building with mountains and sea at its back. The scenery is very beautiful. It is a place where destroyers and submarines in the port area often visit. When Shinji arrived, everyone was already there. "Haha, it seems that I just came at the right time." Shinji walked up with a smile and said to several royal ship ladies who welcomed him, "Commander, welcome to our royal tea party today. Everyone is here and can start at any time." Huda smiled at Shinji. "Hello, Commander," others also said with smiles. "I'm a guest today, so I'll leave it to you, Hood, to get started." Shinji looked at everyone and smiled, then said to Hood, "Then please take a seat." Commander Hood was also unceremonious. Since Shinji has arrived, the tea party can naturally start now. Sitting on the seat drawn by Charybdis, Shinji looked at the ship girls present. Hood, War-Weary, King George V, Prince of Wales, Duke of York, Monarch, Glory. Basically, all the famous and senior officials of the royal family have arrived, and this tea party is indeed quite grand. The tea party naturally started with some polite words. After the polite words were finished, King George V said directly to Shinji, "Commander, I wonder if you have any plans to summon your companions recently." The words of King George V instantly stunned Shinji. "Not yet, because the gap in the Rubik's Cube in the port area is relatively large. Most of the existing Rubik's Cubes have been used for research and development experiments, and only 20 mental Rubik's Cubes are left. I used it when I summoned you yesterday. But why do you ask? Could it be that you want me to summon your fourth sister, during the next summons? King George V shook his head with regret. No, because the success rate of Commander's summons is extremely high, so I would like to hope that you can summon Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth in an environment where the Rubik's Cube is abundant. Elizabeth, Qin Ji looked at King George V and the others beside him and smiled. Although I'm not too sure, you don't have to worry. It's only a matter of time before she appears. I'm sorry, Commander, I'm a little impatient, King George V said to Qin Ji. Qin Ji shook his head. It's okay, I can understand. Haha, when the commander mentioned this, I remembered something Xian Zhan said to Qin Ji. The battle data collection of the Royal Second Scientific Research Ship is soon coming to an end. When we handed over the rotation with Rodney and the others, they were already at 80% progress. I believe the same is true for other camps. Therefore, it is recommended that the commander prepare some mental cubes during this period. The 5 scientific research ship girls will need 25 mental cubes. If the current situation is as it is, then the time when the scientific research ship girls will appear can only be moved to the time when the research ship girls appear. Later it was postponed. Forward. My Ship Girl, My World. Author, Huangming Muji. Chapter 592. In the past, I just saved up the mental cube for use. I finally saved up enough before I summoned it. After arriving at Sun Moon Island, the number of mental Rubik's Cubes has always remained above 3 digits, thinking that there will never be a shortage of mental Rubik's Cubes in the future. But I didn't expect that the gap in the mental Rubik's Cube would suddenly be so big. This was really the moment. Qin Ji said helplessly. Commander, there is no need to be depressed. This is just a period of time. As our experiment enters a stable stage, the mental cube that will be consumed in the future will be relatively low. Moreover, we are now located in Guam, and there are level 5 and even level 6 sea areas nearby. When we eliminate several siren strongholds together, we will have a large number of mental cubes. Guanghui, who was sitting next to Qin Ji, said to him gently, his tone full of encouragement. Haha, if that's the case, then we, the royal family, have a duty. King George V said to Qin Ji, we will quickly improve our training and integrate into the fleet. Later, when we clean up the siren stronghold, Commander, please look forward to our activity. Qin Ji smiled and nodded. I'm very relieved about you, but our main thing at the moment is to improve your training as much as possible to welcome the coming Siren Tide. After all, it was our first time facing Siren Tides here in Guam, so we didn't know what the conditions would be like. But it is not difficult to imagine that it will definitely be a big war by then. The Siren Tide, I have heard Hood talk about this before, but I find it a bit puzzling. Why does the Siren keep the Siren Tide event? After all, after such a long time, the influence of the Siren Tide has been deeply rooted in people's hearts. Even though they are using us as experimental subjects, I feel that such a thing is no longer necessary, right? Said King George V. Qin Ji nodded. Indeed, based on observations over the years and some clues collected from other camps, we now have some guesses. But this guess may not be correct. After all, no one can decide Siren's next move. The result of our discussions is this year's Siren Tide. If there is an abnormality, it means that our guess is about the same. At that time, the world will usher in a disaster, and the bloody storm that has subsided will be set off again. So, everything depends on the Siren Tide this year, which is why I just said that this is our focus now. Hey, then I'm a little curious, what kind of guess is it? Also, if there is no change in the Siren Tide this year, what judgment will the commander make, The Prince of Wales asked Chin Ji. Chin Ji smiled. Among the people present, except the monarch who had already understood, everyone else cast curious eyes. Because Chin Ji also discussed this speculation with other camp leaders, it has not yet been finally announced in the fleet. The reason is that we are worried about the negative impact after the announcement, so we have to wait until the situation is confirmed when the siren tide begins. Is that all you want to know? Chin Ji asked. If we can know, then I hope the commander will tell us. If the commander feels that it is not appropriate for us to know, then we can wait until the appropriate time to tell us, King George V said. Chin Ji shook his head. It's okay to tell you, but after I tell you this news, I hope you won't do more publicity within the fleet. Everyone nodded. Don't worry, Commander, we will abide by our agreement with the commander. Chin Ji smiled and then looked at Guanghui. Among you, Guanghui has been with me the longest, so when everything started to change, she was also a witness. Of course, the monarch is also a witness, because it all started when she was born. Hearing what Chin Ji said, Zhang Xian, who had been in the fleet for a long time, quickly reacted. So what the commander is talking about is that time you encountered the Mirror Sea in the erosion level 4C area. Chin Ji nodded. Yes, we feel that from that moment on, Siren's experimental policy for this world changed. If my coming to this world brought an accident to the world, then the time I came face to face with the Sirens was that the world of Sirens brought new choices. That time the Siren set up 6 levels for us, not so much to test our abilities as to see our possibilities. In the secret files of these camps, words such as Siren's terminal node and calculation system have been mentioned more than once. Based on our assessment of the strength of the Siren, Emperor Frederick the Great made a very surprising guess at that time. That is before I came to this world may have gone through countless experiments. What? Zhang Xie said in surprise. In fact, it wasn't just war exhaustion, but everyone else present had expressions of surprise and disbelief. How is it possible? Only 100 years have passed since the war developed to this point. How come it has gone through countless experiments? The history of this world will not lie. Commander, did Frederick the Great make something wrong? Guanghui asked eagerly. Chin Ji smiled and said to everyone, this is actually a very philosophical question. If we want to explore this question, we must first understand one thing. When he said this, he paused, then looked at everyone and said, is the world we are in now the real world? Commander, what does this mean? Isn't the world we live in a real world? We all have different wills, each region has different civilizations, and everyone is doing what he is thinking about. What is the real world? Huizan asked Chin Ji doubtfully. However, King George V pondered for a moment, then raised his head and said, this is really an interesting conjecture. I would like to see what kind of person Frederick the Great was who could make this conjecture. George V, do you understand something? Hood asked King George V of England. My guess is not accurate enough, it's just an idea. So instead of asking me now, it's better to ask the commander. Since he raised this question, he will definitely have the answer to this question. George V. She looked at Chin Ji with a smile. Chin Ji smiled and said to everyone, time and space are always relative concepts. If we discuss the starting point of all time, no one can tell clearly. We can only say that it is based on a relative goal. The starting point and the end point. So for our world, as long as time and space are artificially defined, a world can be constructed, just like the worlds in those video games and novels. What evidence do we have to prove that we are not living in a box planned by others?